Welcome back, Attack. I'm Skyland Shore, and today we're going to be taking a look at the new free-to-play MOBA, Supernova. That's right, Supernova. It's got robots and aliens, androids, and all sorts of craziness. It really kind of feels like an air mech mixed with League of Legends. It's definitely really highly polished. It's got some unique ideas. How they all flow together and work together with the rest of the game systems, well, let's go and find out again. With this second glance here, we're going to go back into the game, see what has changed, what has updated, and how the game has evolved, and where it is going into the future. What are their plans, and all that good stuff. It's not a full review or anything. I mean, it's not like the game is released or anything, but we are just going to go back and kind of do like a status report on the development of Supernova. So, for those who are uninitiated, basically think League of Legends mixed with an RTS. You can actually choose which creeps spawn down your lane. And I think this is actually a really fun, interesting mechanic that makes Supernova different. But is it more than a gimmick? It's a little bit less impactful than the game Air Mech. Air Mech is an action RTS, which maybe could be classified as a MOBA, where you can place units and you can have different spawn points for these different units, you have different bases, and overall that feels very similar to an RTS, but you control a main hero. In Supernova, it's very similar to League of Legends. 3 lanes, there's a jungle, you got towers, you have your Nexus, Throne, Augur is what it's called in this game. You have your champions, gods, or in this game, commanders, and you have your 4 abilities, you have an item shop. It basically is just like League of Legends in many, many ways, except you choose which armies or what kind of units go down your lanes in the waves. Of course, that beckons the question, how impactful is this gimmick of Supernova? It's actually pretty big. It's a very huge part of the game. It's not as impactful as Air Mech, okay? It's not like the whole game revolves around it. It is just a facet of your matches, but I would say it's like 1/3 of the game, because you actually have like this rock, paper, scissors mechanic with your different waves as they meet their enemies' waves, okay? So like flying beats like ground infantry with machine guns, but then the infantry with rockets beats the flying, and then you have tanks, and you have different kind of tanks, different kind of units, and how they all mesh together, it really is going to be based on what you want to do, or as a noob, then you're just going to flail around and get dominated. But yes, knowing to control the waves, like when to spawn different units, you can even sell units, buy different kind of units, what to build, when, during what phases of the game, but I do know that there is absolute strategy with the waves. And the fact that I don't have a full comprehension of the mechanic is kind of a good thing, because I played a little bit, and I'm glad that I don't fully understand it. Sure, I guess some people would say it's unintuitive, it's not good for new players, it's confusing. Maybe, true, but to people who like MOBAs, who like complicated niche games like this, like RTSs, we love depth, right? And this mechanic only adds depth. But of course, absolutely, there's gotta be some sacrifice for this depth, for this complexity, for this strategy. And for me, I always review games that come into this. What are the mechanics of the game? This is going to be like the game feel, your actual physical inputs, and how that translates into the game. I think strategy, that's what you come into every match or every situation, your plan that you put into action later. And then the tactics, which is what actually happens during the battle. Do you flank right behind them? Do you dodge left or do you dodge right? Which abilities do you use in which order? Stuff like that. If you can just memorize a certain output, like QWER, boom, just every time. Or is there actually some flexibility in that with your tactics? So in this game, there is a heavy favor toward strategy versus mechanics. And I know it kind of can be confusing when I say a mechanic of a game, but then say it lacks mechanics. Sorry, it's just, terminology, jargon, whatever. But let me say, even though you do have a mechanic that spawns units, and there is strategy within that facet of gameplay, the raw actual mechanics of the player and then the character, the commander, is actually kind of lacking. The gameplay is really slow. And if we use League of Legends as a comparison, League of Legends is infinitely more mechanical, way more skill shots, characters are way faster, more agility, and in fact, overall, I would say that League of Legends, if it was just a 1v1 game and you played it almost like a fighting game, it would actually truly feel still like a really good game. There's a lot of depth and complexity just with kit versus kit, player versus player, one-on-one. In this game, it's absolutely a team game, team-oriented game, and they replaced some mechanics, yes, they truly did, and put it into strategy. Me, personally, here's my bias, I really prefer mechanics. I truly do. However, I still have a lot of fun with the crazy specialty class in Heroes of the Storm. I think that's really cool. There's a lot of RTS and mechanics, with the pushing and the sieging. I think that's really fun. And so this game actually really turned me on. I was super excited for it. However, it is so slow paced. Heroes of the Storm is faster paced. And this game really reminds me of Dota 2. How much grinding that you do, how much pushing and farming, and how slow paced everything is. And the one-on-one interactions, how everything feels like it's basically more about preparation than it is about reflexes and tactics during the actual one-on-one fight. However, team fights actually still have a lot of tactics, there's a lot of strategy, but more than anything, it's about preparation. And so if you don't like grinding, if you don't like slow-paced games, you aren't going to enjoy Supernova, and I suggest you go play League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm. Or if you still really like that RTS aspect, Air Mech is an RTS, has more complexity in the RTS aspect, and is still significantly faster paced and even more mechanical. So depending on your bias and your personal favorite games, you might come into this game really liking it, but I think more often than not, the odds are going to be against you, and I think that this is a particularly niche title. But it's also particularly freaking polished. No, really? I mean, it looks good. Even back in my first impressions, way back when I played it in like alpha, it just looked so good. It was like these animations, you spawn in, there's like the ship that comes in and your character like has these holograms. Dude, even when you're backing, instead of just teleporting back to base like any other game, you actually have this like airship that comes and picks you up, and then you can also be dropped off by this airship. Like there's so much complexity with the animations. Like they're just really in-depth animations, the textures, the graphics overall, just like my eyeballs feel good. I feel like they're being massaged by like the sci-fi themality. It's really awesome. But I do need to talk about the character design in this world, in this atmosphere. No matter how good the graphics are, how the design of the characters really is going to impact their MOBA. And I'm going to start talking about some things that are fundamentally probably never going to change about the game, so this is probably hugely biased, but here's an example, okay? League of Legends, and yes, I'm going to use League of Legends because it's the most popular game for a reason. It's got these incredibly memorable characters. This I mentioned back in my first impressions of Supernova, but the characters aren't particularly, special, I guess. They're not particularly memorable. Some, like maybe if you picked one or two and put it in League of Legends, it'd make sense. But the fact is that a lot of these characters look very similar to many others. And most of the characters simply don't have faces. In fact, I would say like 90% of the characters just simply don't have a face. Sure, their little icon has a face, but their in-game model does not have a face because they are like people in mech suits and mech armors, and then you have these robots that just don't have faces, and you have these like grotesque looking monsters which still don't have faces. I think there's one that's essentially a floating fucking stomach. Yeah, seriously, like there really isn't too much character in these character designs, and I do think that is potentially a fatal flaw. I mean, there is a reason why League of Legends and Heroes of the Storm are doing so well, and they have really good characters. This game, though, it's kind of hard to sell. It looks good, but I don't think it particularly has a lot of character. That's all I'm saying. Some people might like the aesthetic. I mean, I particularly like the aesthetic too, but I feel like there probably could have been a little bit more to differentiate some of these characters between themselves. Some characters do look really good, but there are a lot that actually still look very similar to others. I'm just saying. But lastly, and in closing, we should probably talk about because it is a free-to-play game, we need to talk about the leveling system, the market, the shop. Truth is that it's kind of a grind, and a lot of free-to-play games are like this, especially character games. MOBAs specifically are quite grindy. And in this game, you have a progression system where you do have to actually unlock different characters. There's a weekly rotation, I do believe. Well, we were in betas. That could change. Some things could change, by the way, guys. Just, it is beta. A lot of things could change. But I believe the payment scheme is probably going to stay similar. You have to get different characters. You also have to unlock your different in League of Legends, you have summoner spells. You have sort of like a metaphor for that. It's something similar to that. You have these skills that you can use. They're a lot more, and they're a lot more varied, and they're a lot more impactful as well, which I really do appreciate those skills. So you have these commander skills that you can actually get. I believe they're called commander skills. So just like League of Legends, you have to essentially unlock these different out-of-the-match skills. And then you also have to unlock your different army units, which you're going to have to purchase, and you can customize a lot of your gameplay outside of the matches, and you do have to progress through that. So there does seem to be this like incentivization to grind, to spend money on the game just to progress, to actually be competitive. To me personally, I think Smite and Dota 2 have great examples of the free-to-play genre, and if you have to have a progression system, League of Legends is okay, and this game is okay. I'm not going to say it's like straight up pay to win or anything, but I just prefer having everything being competitive right out of the gate. That's just how I feel personally, but to do that in this game, you do have to spend money, but it's not pay to win, guys. I don't feel it's pay to win. I'm just saying there is a little bit of grind. It's not no World of Tanks grind. It's not no Warframe kind of grinding, but there is some grind to actually get to a competitive point. But also in our cash shop, we have aesthetics, we have cosmetics. You can, I guess, kind of skin your army, different kind of units. It seems like they have different kind of chroma colors that you can have. I don't know if they're just going to have entirely different skins, but you do have crazy, ridiculous skins for these different characters. And some people are turned off, or maybe they really like having funny, silly skins, and this game seems to be going in that direction. It's gonna have like really ridiculous skins. I mean, one character has like a straight up like football helmet, like football jersey, so you know he looks like he's gonna tackle someone. I mean, you're gonna have those kind of skins in this particular game, even though it seems kind of like graphically, like it's oriented aesthetically toward like a hardcore audience. It's got those really ridiculous skins, so that might turn off some people. I know a lot of people who don't play Team Fortress 2 because it has crazy hats, you know? So if you like silly things, if you're okay with having fun, ridiculous skins, you are probably gonna like this cash shop. But if you're somebody who likes something a little bit more earnest and honest, something a little bit more hardcore, hard-hitting, this game, it's got silly stuff. So you might not like that. But to reiterate, everything looks pretty good about the game. Nothing pay to win, nothing erroneous, nothing shady here. It seems like some developers are honestly trying to make a really good game to their particular liking. Whether that's niche or not, whether it gets a huge player base or not, I don't think it matters. I think they're just trying to make the game that they like. So if this is a particular title that interests you, get into the betas as soon as you can. You're probably gonna have a blast. So that's that. That's my first impressions. Another first glance at Supernova. Okay, it's not first impressions, like second impressions. Whatever, guys. We're looking back at the game. It's not out yet. It can't be called a full review or anything. But anyways, Supernova is a new, I think pretty polished, free-to-play MOBA coming out. I think Supernova has a chance. You know, I think it's definitely a contender in the arena genre. It's not as fast-paced as I would like personally, but I think there's a lot of people out there who would still enjoy the game. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe so you can stay notified on all sorts of upcoming news and stuff on multiplayer games. But yeah, we like playing together. That's what the channel's all about. So if you like that kind of stuff too, stay tuned, and we'll see you again next time. Welcome back, Attack. Today we're going to be talking about the top 10 free-to-play MMOs for this year, for 2015, and I think across all the genres for free-to-plays, we've seen so much innovation in MOBAs, in MMOs, in like card games. We've seen so many new things this past year, and hopefully, maybe, probably so, 2015 is going to be just as exciting. This is our